Today, ad copywriters extraordinaire, we are going to talk about the big and the small. We're going to talk about billboard writing, the big stuff, big letters, big impact, and big money, and the small of direct mail. Could be this small. Could it be this small? So we're going to talk about opposite ends of the spectrum and writing for those two different kinds of media. So let's start with the big. Billboards. Huge, ginormous entities. But they are seen as people are driving past at 70 miles an hour or 90 miles an hour, however fast those people in their sports cars go. Or sometimes seen by people from a distance, but at a traffic light. So billboards, although they're really big, cannot have a whole lot of information on them. Because if you do try to pack too much information into a billboard, then people are going to pass by it so quickly they miss part of your message. And we don't want that. We want every bit of that message to be absorbed and to be effective. So billboards have a limit. If you are a wise writer, copywriter, and I'm sure that you are, or you want to be, you want to not exceed about 10 words on a billboard. And those of you who are in perhaps my ad graphics class, you've heard this before. This is not news to you. And maybe it's something that you, as an observer of billboards as well, may realize. Billboards need to have big impact, a big image, a very clear image, and then few words. And I like to say fewer than 10, and that's kind of the benchmark that most designers and copywriters aim for with billboards. Those 10 words, though, have to be very carefully chosen, very carefully unified with your message and with your image. So, billboards. Fewer than 10 words, maybe a logo on there, likely some kind of way of making contact or finding that particular product or company or event. For instance, in the case of Mary B. Martin School of the Arts, we want them to find our event information. And so we would send them to our etsu.edu/Martin URL, where they can buy tickets, they can find out information about the differing events. But so you have a very limited amount of information on that billboard, but it needs to be branded. It needs to be very specific to your message. Whatever your messages are that you have created in that creative brief, you need to choose probably just one message for that big billboard, and have the text be really big so that people who are driving past really fast can understand it, can absorb it, can digest it, or at least be introduced to it. Because some billboards are simply branding billboards, where you're building that brand identity that we talked about quite a lot at the beginning of the semester. Other billboards may be more specific. They may want you literally to purchase something or to go somewhere. Purchase our peaches. Let's say you're traveling to South Carolina and maybe there's a billboard for peaches because South Carolina has the best peaches. Well, Georgia obviously does too. Or maybe they want you to go somewhere, like the billboard for Aldi will want you to go to such and such West Market Street to purchase some food from them. So you probably need to have some kind of call to action if it is that kind of a billboard, but it may just be a branding billboard. You need to decide, because let us not waste money, because billboards are very expensive. A billboard package could cost your client, just for a set of maybe 2 or 3 billboards for 1 month, could run anywhere from $5,000 to $15,000 and maybe more just in our market. And we have a relatively medium-sized market. So you do not want your client or your boss or your company spending that kind of money unless you have really done your research, determined what target audience is going to see this, and then you position those billboards where they can be seen by your target audiences. And then you must decide what the message is and be very cautious in crafting that. That's about it for billboards, because message must be short, simple, large, clear, and on target, or on point, as they might say, with your message. You got it. But it's amazing how many billboards are really not crafted very well and are not very effective. So don't be one of those folks who writes those ineffective, wordy billboard messages. I know you're not going to be. You know the rules of the billboard world now. The other thing I wanted to talk about today is direct mail. That's pretty much anything that you might get in the mail that is pitching something to you. I'm sure you get a mailbox full of them. I do every day. Now, direct mail can also be in an envelope and be a letter, but for the most part, the most effective direct mail appeals are in the form of some kind of card that can be read fairly easily. And one of the tricks, now this one's nice because it also pops open, but still doesn't take up too much space. And that's an important thing. It has to fit in a mailbox. And as I showed you, this one sort of rolls open. It has what we call a roll fold. But the secrets to direct mail, which are so much smaller than the big billboards, and actually, despite the fact that they're smaller, as you can see, you have much more room for information on a direct mail piece. Why is that? Because people are holding it in their hands. They're not driving past it at 45 to 95 miles an hour. They literally get it in their mailbox. They normally will pick it up with their fingers and lovingly caress it. You're hoping that it will grab them enough to actually stop them to read it. Oh, isn't that a cute little... I heart this direct mail piece because folks love that little heart symbol nowadays. So that's really something that's sort of trendy, isn't it? And actually what they're trying to get you to do is get a cardiac screening for a discounted price of only $49. It's really not a bad direct mail piece. And let me tell you why. A direct mail piece needs to have a call to action and, better than that, a reason for somebody to bring the card in to the location that you're trying to draw them to, because that way you can count them. And you don't have to just wonder. See, with a billboard, you have no idea how many people actually see that board. There are daily traffic counts, etc. But maybe those people are on their cell phone talking. They're fussing at the kids. Stop that, Billy. Stop that. Joni, stop that. You know, they're distracted. Maybe they are punching the buttons on the radio. Maybe they're putting on their makeup as they drive past. You don't know how many people really touch that billboard or how many people that billboard touches. But with a direct mail piece, you know it's going into their mailboxes. For one, you know how many mailboxes it's going into. And then also, if you put a reason for them to bring it to you, you can then count them. I can assure you that Pier 1 Imports knows when you bring this in, and then they count. And they know that they sent out 50,000 of them or 150,000 of them. And if they get 25,000 of them back, well, they've done pretty well, haven't they? If they get 50 of them back from 150,000, well, they're probably going to feel like, I don't need to send that card out again. But the discount will draw people in. This has a bonus on a checking account. Receive a $150 bonus when you open any checking account, and receive a 1% APY for 5 months when you open a money market account. And it says, and it has a call to action, hurry, don't delay, because the offer expires. And that's an important thing to have on your direct mail piece. But the secret to an effective direct mail piece, or at least one that can be measured, its effects can be measured, is to have a coupon or a discount. And then you need to say to them, either bring it in or tell us whether you received the mail piece. Or you ask them whether they received the mail piece. If they found it, how did you find out about this? I like this one. It says, don't leave your family buried in debt. After you die, don't leave your family buried in debt. And it's insurance. And it's so cute. It's just so little. But pretty impactful, because you fill out the form and you tear it off and you mail it, and they know how many people responded positively to this appeal. It's pretty good. However, direct mail battles against, of course, the junk mail problem, and we get so much junk mail. We also deal with the fact that some people may never even look at it. And on top of that, direct mail is expensive, because you have to have it not only designed and pay for the design, likely, but then you also have to have it printed and pay for the printing costs. And then you have to pay for each piece to be mailed. Of course, most of these will go bulk mail, and that's a lower mailing cost. But still, it's very costly. So you do not, again, just like a billboard, which is very costly, you do not want to waste your company's money. You do not want to waste your client's money on a product, on a piece, on an appeal that is not targeted, well thought out, well researched to begin with, well thought out, the message chosen very carefully for a specific target audience. A great thing, though, about direct mail is that you can target your audience very specifically. You can say to the mail house, I'd like to send this Ruby Tuesday mail piece to people who have incomes that are over $30,000 a year. I'd like to send it to people who drive SUVs, to people who live in Carter and Johnson and Washington counties in Tennessee, and who live in Buncombe County in North Carolina, because you can target your audiences through these direct mailings, because there are mailing lists that are so incredibly specific. You could say, I want to send this mailing to people who have children who are 3 to 10. you can do that. And there is a mail list for that, believe it or not. So you can be very accurate with direct mail, but you need to make sure that your message is very targeted. So now you're saying, Lise, you babbled on about all the good things and all the bad things about direct mail, but how do I write my text for it? Well, I'm giving you that information so that you have an idea of the kind of text that you would want to write for a direct mail piece. Now, obviously, it's going to depend on what your message is, what your purpose is. What are you trying to accomplish? What is your client trying to accomplish with this direct mail piece? And why do you think that direct mail would be effective for this? These are big questions that you must ask first. But then once you've decided, obviously each piece is going to be different, and I can't give you a template for that. But you do want to keep the text to a minimum amount. Ruby Tuesday doesn't have much text on here at all, except for buy one, get one 50% off. And then, of course, they've got the images of really yummy looking food. I'm sure you've received these, and you've probably used them, especially with the Rubies across the street from ETSU. But their text is very limited. Receive a Create Your Own Garden Bar for $5. Valid Monday through Friday, only until 3 p.m. Pretty exciting text. They didn't take a lot of crafting for that because they wanted to be sure they had all their guidelines on here. On the front, it's 3 exciting offers. But what will really draw people in is the discount. Let's look at Pier 1. Needless to say, again, this is mostly crafted to be a discount, 20% off. But because I haven't bought anything at Pier 1 in a while, they're missing me very much. So the target audience for this card is people who have a Pier 1 card, credit card, I imagine, or account, but have not used it much lately. So we miss you this much. Get 20% off. Now, some people, that's going to get their attention, and they're going to go in and they'll actually make a purchase. And Pier 1 will be able to track it because you have to bring the card in. So really, it's sort of like a billboard, is it not? Even though it's little and you have more room for more text, it's a little bit like the big old billboard in that usually you have 2 sides to a direct mail piece, and one side is an attention grabber. It's probably going to be mostly art and a catchphrase of some kind, or a headline, maybe more than a catchphrase, which is a slogan, a headline that gets their attention for you, your loved ones, and your heart. Well, that does sort of get my attention. And then they've got it branded with their logo. And on the back, it says CT cardiac calcium screening, only $49. And then it asks you a question. It has a sub-headline. Concerned about heart disease? Consider a CT cardiac calcium screening, a simple, safe, quick, and low radiation way to find out the amount of calcium in your coronary arteries, which causes hardening of the arteries. Calcium is a key indicator of coronary disease and your risk for a sudden heart attack. Sudden heart attack. That's going to get people's attention, isn't it? There's no fasting, so they're responding to what would be people's concerns. This is like, what do people think now, right? From your creative brief. There's no fasting, contrast, X-ray dye, or physician referral needed. So they're responding to people's concerns. To schedule your screening, here's a call to action. Call 1-800-659 blah, blah, blah. That's it. And the discount. So truly, I have seen some direct mail pieces that had a lot of text. But honestly, the less text, and in this case, this text is bulleted with key reasons or conveniences or benefits about this checking account. What makes it special? So I can't give you a template for what to put on a direct mail piece, but you know that you want to keep it to a limited amount of words, depending on how much space your design is going to allow. And that's why you have to think about the design at the same time as the text writing. And then you want to be sure that you make it digestible for your readers. Can you put it in bullets? Can you put it in one paragraph with a couple headlines and a call to action? Can you put it in essentially less than one paragraph, maybe in only 2 statements? This information down here is just about taxes, etc., blah, blah, blah. Can you put it on 2 very teeny tiny pages, along with some bulleted information and a headline on the front? Just depends on how much information you're trying to transmit. And again, the less, probably the more effective. But there are some instances in which I'm sure this insurance needs some explaining. So they've got $100,000 adult life insurance, and they've got $20,000 children's life insurance. And then they have bulleted information about each. So you're going to have to know your product. You're going to have to do your research. You need to know what messages you're trying to transmit, and you need to know very specifically about them. If there's going to be bulleted information or some basic information there, probably paragraph form is not the best way to go. And maybe bullets is the better way to go, because you want them to be able to digest it fairly quickly once you've teased them in with your strong headline. Show your heart a little love. This one's about medications that will improve your heart condition. So, direct mail, small package, can have a really big impact. It's why they keep sending them. If they didn't work, you wouldn't keep getting them. Billboards, big impact, but many times just a branding message, because you don't have a lot of room for a more extended message. So that's the big picture and the little picture.